Thank you so much for joining us on Straight Out of Savannah. Oh my God, do I have a treat for you today? Miss Storm is here and she has joined us and she's going to share about who she is and what she does and how she can help you. So Miss Storm, take it away.
Hi, guys. Thank you guys so much for having me. Tammy, thank you so much for having me on your podcast, on your show. This is an honor. My name is Storm. You guys probably know me as Global Storm. If you don't, I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about myself. So, I am a Reiki master. I'm a two-time Reiki master. I am certified in Usui traditional Japanese Reiki and Kundalini Reiki as well. I'm also a sound healer. I do sound paths for healing. I am an EFT tapping practitioner. I also do readings. I'm a channel. I do channel messages. And yeah, so my community is called the Glow Family, the Glow Community. So shout out to my tribe. Shout out to my people if you're listening to this. So thank y'all as well. I'm a Virgo. I'm an earth sign. I'm a Virgo sun, Virgo moon, and also a Libra rising.
Oh,
Yes, I'm a double earth, double
mhm.
earth sign. I come from a military background, a military family. I've been all over everywhere in the world. I started my healing journey back in 2020, in the year of the pandemic when it started. And I have been a full-time spiritual entrepreneur for the last like 4 or 5 years now. So, and yeah, so thank you. Thank you.
That is so awesome. I am just so glad that she chose to come here because I have been watching her and I was sharing with her before we got on how I had been watching her and she inspired me so much because she and I have so many commonalities and so many similar journeys, and so I was like, oh my God, you just really, really inspired me because it was something that I was also doing coming out of the spiritual closet. So talk a little bit about that, about how it was for you. Share your journey to getting there,
Oh,
what you came through and how you got to this space.
oh, okay. So I love that. So this is actually something I've been wanting to talk about for a while. So I love that you opened the floor to this conversation because I feel like it's not only me who wants to speak on this, but there's other people who want to speak on this, but maybe are afraid to.
Yes.
So it actually started with morning pages and coffee. That is my daily routine of what I do with my community every morning. We get up there, we pray, we meditate, and we do all those things together. It was really just to hold space for people and to provide a healing space and to build routine and a connection with God on a daily basis. I started out on my personal page on TikTok, and there was like a few people that would come through. And one day I just got inspiration where God was like, you know what, do a prayer. And I said, a prayer? And I said, I don't know how I feel about doing that because people see me as a
Yes.
spiritual type, quote unquote, person. And
Yes.
so how would it feel or how would people perceive me if they see that I am listening to Christian based prayers? And so God said, just do what feels right. So I went ahead, we started listening to Christian based prayers and we started incorporating and integrating that with the spiritual aspect like meditation and journaling and all of those things. And it just took on it itself. Like it was just one thing after another.
Yes.
And people loved it. People were like, oh my gosh, I love this. I want to keep doing more because I feel closer to God doing this. And I was ashamed because I moved away from those practices, but now I'm starting to, get back into it. And
Yes.
it's like, this makes me feel seen. This makes me feel like I can truly believe and have this personal connection with God without being judged.
Yes. Yes.
So, say, sis. So, and that's what Morning Pages of Coffee was truly all about. It was just about, people coming from different spiritual backgrounds and people coming from different walks of life and being like, hey, I'm here. Like, because this is what spirituality truly is. This is the
Yes.
definition.
Oh,
Okay.
what?
This is the definition.
You
Your
gonna make me
personal,
shout, girl.
okay. spirituality is the connection that you have with God.
Yes.
And that is your personal spiritual belief and connection. Your connection, your spiritual practice is going to look different from everybody else's. It's not going to look the same. So I think that by creating and placing judgment on others, that does not make you any more spiritual. That's actually creating division. And like God said, you're supposed to love thy neighbor.
Yeah.
So, that's what I mean. So with spirituality, it's all about building something that makes you feel closer to you, but also that makes you feel closer to God. And once I started putting prayer back in there, because I'm telling y'all, I moved away from those practices a few years ago. When I first started my spiritual journey, I had my first spiritual awakening.
Yes.
I didn't pray. And I could say I didn't pray. I lost my faith. I didn't believe in all that stuff because I was mad. I was mad at God. I was angry at God. I was going through a lot of things. Okay.
What did God do to you?
I was going through a lot of things in my life when I had my first spiritual awakening, but God said,
as it always is.
Okay. But God said, just because you strayed from me doesn't mean that you can't come back and build with me again.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? I am going to start doing that again. I am going to start praying. I am going to start leaning back into my faith. I am going to start being a vessel, because that's what people need. People need representation for that.
Yes.
And the thing is that you can combine both worlds. It doesn't have to be one or the other, because God was a healer. Let's just talk about the truth now. God was a healer.
Absolutely.
So God is a healer himself. So, there's a lot of things that go back and forth, but I feel like when I look at someone and they say, I believe in God too, or I believe in prayer too, or I still meditate, or I still do this and I still do that. And I just think, you know what? I think that's beautiful, because you and God have a special connection, and that's all that matters.
Yes. So I did a video on light language.
Love it.
And in tongues.
Right.
I said, somebody asked me about it, and I said, I've been doing this since I was 5 years old. This is not new for me. I said,
right.
Yeah, now this is what, and so I talked about it, because I was like,
right.
It's the same. Still that connection, the oneness. And also, if you think about it, it's at that division point. Okay, so you speak in tongues, but you don't do light language. Okay, well, what difference does it make? If it's all connecting with God, the one, the source, the omni, as my mother calls them, if it's all that, then what is all this? And why are we here?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's a good case in point, because when I started my light language journey, I was so nervous. I said, God, I don't know if I can do that. If I get on my platform and I start speaking tongues, or if I start, if I start doing light language and I start channeling light language, I said, how people get to look at me? But God says, you're not there for the people who are going to cast judgment. You're there for the people who need healing. You got to think about your assignment. You got to think about your purpose.
Yes.
And if, as long as it comes from me, what does it matter?
Yes.
What does it matter? So I said, you know what? Okay. So I really had to start working on my throat chakra. I had to start working on using my voice more. So I remember I did my first light language video, and I thought, oh my God, this is going to be so terrible. This is going to be so terrible. And then the response that I got was actually the opposite.
Yep.
And so I realized that it was truly me getting in my own way and say, you know what, Storm, you can release that fear. Because you know that this is coming from God. You know that this healing's come from God. So you have nothing to worry about.
Yes.
And I'm so glad that you brought that up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's real. The thing is because I've seen, we were talking about in the green room, we were talking about how is so much toxicity, in the spiritual community, and it rivals the toxicity in the Christian community. It almost is like it, just until just this very moment, it's like, to me, it's like a mirror.
Wow.
Wow,
And
it's right.
is. And is. We're all reflections of each other.
Yes, absolutely. And it's like, because I saw something one day and, oh, well, these people can't do this and these people can't do that and all this. And then, with the cultural appropriation stuff, I find for me, it's difficult for me to see some people as shamans and others,
Mhm.
I have that difficulty. And I was actually going within myself to
Mhm.
make sure that, it wasn't like just a me thing and all this kind of stuff. And so I spoke to others that are, like us, and they are feeling very similar because it feels so much, very much so like colonization. And so this is one of the reasons why I reach out to people like yourself to come
Mhm.
on this show, because I need people to see us
Absolutely.
because we're here
Absolutely.
and we've been here.
And we're not new to this, we're true to this.
Yes,
Very much
absolutely.
so.
Absolutely.
We've been
So,
around a long time. We've been
yeah,
around a long time. And so are our practices, you
yes,
know. Our practices have been woven and have been here for a very long time, generations and generations and generations.
yes,
And we can take those things and utilize them like our ancestors left us to do,
yeah.
right? We are finishing what they have started. And that's how I look at it, you
Me,
know?
me too. I tell people, I said, I am the living embodiment of my grandmother's legacy.
Amen.
I think about
Ashe.
it. For me, she was my first energy healer. She was a pastor,
That's beautiful.
the Pentecostal pastor, and she was, and I think about it now, it's like she did not even know what she had tapped into, because she was the one that started meditating and stuff. And she started, at some point, she found Wayne Dyer, and she found Louise Hay,
Wow.
Abraham Hicks. And so she was following all of them, but everybody didn't know. But I knew, because she was my person.
Wow.
So she showed me a lot of those things. Like she bought Louise Hay's, about 20 of Louise Hay's books or so, and just gave them to everybody, to read. You can heal your body. I think it's You Can Heal Your Life, You Can Heal Your Body, or something.
Wow.
So I think about that and I'm like, and I can remember her, just speaking over you, and she used to, I used to go to these little churches with her, and she would just call me up to the front to lay hands on people and
Yes.
pray. And she would tell me, just lay hands on them and pray. And I did. So that's why I knew that I was supposed to be a healer. But
Amen.
at
Ashe.
some point, I knew I wasn't supposed to be doing it in the church, in the traditional way.
In the traditional way.
No.
And I really want to touch on that real quick before I say something else, because that's a very good point that you just made, is that what I realize is that God is everywhere.
Yes.
God is everywhere, and you don't have to go to a building to praise God.
You don't
You
gotta
can
find
praise
him either.
God here.
You don't gotta find him either.
Okay, exactly. So I realized that you can make your home a church. You
Yes.
can make a park a church. You can make any location a church.
Well, aren't we the temple?
We are the come on, we're the vessel, we're the temple. So God said, it doesn't, you don't have to go to a specific place to reach me or to praise me or to worship me or to connect with me or anything like that. And when I started realizing that, that changed my whole perspective
Yeah.
of my connection with God, because I thought, I feel so bad because I feel like I have been neglecting my spiritual side of myself because I haven't been to church in so many years. And God says, it's okay. It's okay
I'm
because
surprised you
you
didn't say
pray.
I ain't there.
Like, I'm not mad at you, you know what I mean? Like, it's all right. Like, you can connect with me anytime. You can pray to me anytime,
Yes.
anywhere. And that just changed my whole journey for me, where I thought that was the expectation of others that I realized. It
Yes.
wasn't my expectation. It wasn't God's expectation. It was other people's projections and other people's expectations of me to show up in a way that they wanted me to, instead of how I wanted to show up.
Yes. 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 That is
She
so,
could.
isn't that a powerful revelation?
revelation.
I'm saying when that hits you, it's like, that wasn't even me. That ain't even what I wanted.
It's like, what? And that was that divine wisdom.
Yeah.
That was that clarity that I got from him. And I said, you know what? Thank you. Because I feel less pressure. I don't feel the weight of others anymore on me, because I realized that as long as I show up as myself, God's gonna love me as me. God loves me as who Storm is. And you know that, and that's how I just tap in now. That's how come I'm able to channel, and that's how come I'm able to keep myself open to God's word, because I know my connection. I know my connection. I know my relationship.
Yeah. Oh my God. That to me, that is the most important. The most important, knowing your personal, because I tell people, I say, you know what, it's the God of your understanding. It's not my God, your God, their God, his God, her God. It's the one that you understand, the one that means something to you. And I'm like, oh my God, that's powerful. If you think about it, so many people would be so much better off in their life if they realized this. Just what you said. That realize that it's not in a building. It's not in the fact that you go to church every day. Because you know what I said when I was 17? I said, God, now I done been going to church all my life, since probably before I was born.
Yep.
And I got 17 years of going to church, sometimes 3 and 4 and 8 days in the week.
Come on.
Said I got 17 years of that on file somewhere. So
Yeah.
I believe you can tap on in there and get some of that. But I ain't going
Mhm.
no more. That's what I said. I am done. And I didn't leave, God,
Right.
but I had just decided I was done.
Mm-hmm.
Now
Mm-hmm.
I didn't continue to do that, because I actually did go back to church. I took my kids to church and all that, and that. But yeah, I mean, I just was like, I can't do this no more. I was like, I'm so tired of this. I mean, we walk
Mm-hmm.
around this church and we praise him and all this stuff, and then we leave and we got the same old shit happening.
Mm-hmm.
And it's changing,
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think that this is where I'm gonna go with my life.
Right. And that was all a part of your journey. That was part of your journey. That was part of your story. That's part of, what had you come here today in the relationship now that you have today with God.
Yeah.
That needed to happen in order for you to be here and do what you're doing now.
Yes, yes, yes.
You know?
And it doesn't matter how long either. That's the thing.
No.
I want to say that so people that are watching will know, it doesn't matter how long. It doesn't matter, because I think about that. I'm like, okay, so I am now 55, almost 56. And I'm like, there are some things that I really just solidified 5, 6 years ago,
Right.
when I was 50. And I'm like, oh my God, and so I think, if I could have solidified that 30 years ago, but then it's
Mhm.
all kinds of things you could consider with that. Because my husband and I talk about that, like, why didn't I meet you 30 years ago? And he was like, yeah, we probably wasn't ready then.
Oh, we're ready.
We
There,
probably wasn't ready.
and there's a lot of things that we could do that with different parts of our life. Like, oh,
Yes,
well, I probably should have known this, or
yes.
maybe what if I would have done that? And
Hmm.
God's like, shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Right.
You right where you need to be, baby. It happened exactly the same way it was supposed to happen.
Right. It was supposed to happen that way. And,
It's
but we
supposed to
spend so much
be this
time,
way.
going back and forth with that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, no, I
And
don't, no.
make peace with it. Be like, you know what? I'm okay that I found this out at 50. Like I just turned 30. So like for me,
Oh,
entering my 30s,
child.
my whole 20s, I was stumbling. I was like, I don't know. I keep falling down, getting back up, falling down, getting back up, trying to find my way through who I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
Building myself up, trying to figure out who Storm is, what are Storm's beliefs, what are Storm's values, what is it about me? And when I finally came to a decision of this is who I am, I was able to solidify who I am. And
Yes.
God says, when you solidify yourself, there's nobody that can shake you. There's nobody that can break you. There's nobody that can make you second guess yourself.
No.
So, and I really had to learn that. a lot.
Yeah.
So just like same thing with you, you know? So
Yeah. You know what? And the thing is what I've learned is to be appreciative and stay in gratitude regardless, because I think back on stuff and I'm like, oh, if I could have just did this, or if I could have done that, or, there's all
oh
these
my
things,
gosh.
and the older you get, the more that you have. You're like, you're like, oh my God, and then you realize, guess what though? I made it through it, whatever it was. I'm still here. you know,
Yes.
I'm still here. I every time I open Facebook almost, I see that I have lost another classmate from my high school.
Mm,
Like, I'm still here.
still here. Still
I can
here.
still breathe on my own. I mean, all kinds of things you could consider, but people are so caught up in, I call it minutia. It's like, no, we're not
Right.
going there. So where do you see yourself? Because I see some things, but I want to know where you see yourself.
Ooh.
Let's say 5, 10 years.
Um, currently where I'm at, just in my life, my business, my relationship, I just feel like this, first of all, I have to thank God for this first. Before I even speak about my future plans and my future blessings, I just have to give thanks to God real quick and give him grace and give him glory because he is the one that has blessed me tenfold. And when I say tenfold, he really has come through for me time and time again. So thank you, God, for all the blessings, past, present, and future. Thank you so much. Because I'm about to speak on this vision real quick.
That's what
About
I'm
to speak
talking
on
about.
this vision. So
You heard it here first.
okay, you heard it here first. Exactly. So I always love learning. I feel like I'm gonna get myself certified. I'm gonna go to school for certain things. Like I want to be a massage therapist, and I want to infuse that with Reiki because I love body work. I love learning about the body, and people have asked me about that. So I think I'm gonna go to massage therapy school and include that with my Reiki sessions because I'm gonna start doing in-person events and I'm going to be doing in-person Reiki sessions. I see myself just traveling more and doing retreats in different places. Me and another healer are actually planning to do a retreat in Austin, Texas sometime next year. So we're planning a little bit of that. I feel like in 5 years, I definitely want to be in a place of, how do I say this? I want to open my own studio.
Yeah.
Like I want to open up my own Reiki studio where people come for healing. That's going to be a different place in my life. Like, you know,
Yes.
um, me and my husband, I feel like for me in my personal life, because this is going to affect certain things. We are thinking about having children in the future. So I see myself having children in the future. But I really just do see my business thriving and just growing my community and continuing to do what I'm doing now and really expanding in all of the things that I'm doing. So, and taking things offline because, I'm online a lot, but I'm in a place where I'm happy with what I'm doing. But I feel like in 5 years, I'm going to be doing so many different things and collaborating with so many other healers and practitioners and all of that stuff. And yeah. And eventually I want to have a podcast too in the future. So that might be in the future as well. We'll see. We'll see what God has.
I was gonna say, I don't know what you're waiting on because podcasts. I'm gonna tell you my podcast story, how I got started.
Yes,
God
please.
told me, God told me to start this podcast.
Yes.
And when I started, I was like, well, when I got the idea, when he said dropped it, the download, whatever, I said, a podcast? I said, I can't do no podcast. I don't know how to do all that stuff.
Sure.
I don't know, and so God said, just start it. And so I started it on Facebook. This was, I don't know, 5 years ago or so, 4 or 5 years ago, I don't know. But I started on Facebook. I would
Mhm.
just bring people in to Facebook live and just do the two people on the top and the bottom, or when they started being able to turn it. I don't think I ever did when I was doing it then. And so
Okay.
that's how I started it. And I would just download that and then upload it to YouTube. So I did that for a little while. And then I heard him say, go ahead and, start just doing it, on Zoom. So I
Right.
started doing it on Zoom, and this way I could just upload it. And sometimes I would do it live on Zoom, but I realized that that is a pain in the, what? And so I wasn't doing that. So I was just doing it on Zoom. And so I was interviewing just any and everybody, anybody. I interviewed a young lady that was a braider, and she was 19 years old. She was so cute. My first,
Beautiful.
I was her first interview. I was like, wow. And she was a braider, and she was doing a braid university to help like mothers with biracial kids, teach them how to
Oh,
and stuff like that. Yeah. So she was doing that.
mhm.
And so I was like, all right, and so I was doing that for a while, just interviewing any and everybody. I still didn't have it on the podcast thing. I just was doing it on YouTube because God said just start it on YouTube. So that's what I did. Then I interviewed this young lady, and she said, you should try Anchor FM. And I was like, oh, I think I tried that before. And, if it gives me too many problems and too much grief, I figure it's not for me to do, or it's time for me to sit that down and maybe come back.
Right.
I went back and I did it, and girl, it happened. It was so easy. I said, oh my God, oh my God. So then I started doing it like that. So now, fast forward about a year ago, I started interviewing spiritual entrepreneurs because that's what God told me to do. So I interview spiritual entrepreneurs, and especially those that look like us.
Yes.
I try, God knows I do. Sometimes that can be difficult, as you know.
Mhm.
But yeah, so I interview spiritual entrepreneurs, and I love it because I geek out on the conversations, because it's conversations that I know, conversations I've had, especially the conversation that you and I are having.
Yes, absolutely.
Because we know how the thing is and how that transition is. So let's talk a little bit about integrating, because that right there was so huge for me, seeing that, because I'm telling you, I was so afraid to take that step until I started praying on TikTok. I was afraid because I was like, but anytime anybody asks me to pray, I'm going to pray because I've been a prayer all my life. That's all
Yes,
I am. I am a prayer. And so I'm like, and that's one of the things I ask God to do, is to use me that way.
absolutely.
Allow me, my presence, to be somebody's answer prayer.
Hmm.
So let's talk about that, because how did you get past that point that we are at when we are taking that step to merge these things, integrate these things like you did?
Um, I'll have to say first, my community. I have to thank them also because they are my big support system. And I feel like when you have community and you have people who are encouraging you and inspiring you and telling you this is what you're meant to do, and this is what you're meant to be saying, this is the things that you're supposed to be embodying. I had to truly put aside what I thought was best and get past that fear and say, you know what, I'm going to do what God knows what is best,
Mm.
because those are two different things.
Yes.
Those are two different things. And I had to get past that first initial block.
Yes.
And I used to do this a lot. And I say that as past tense because I try not to claim that energy. But I used to be in a position of, oh, well, what if it doesn't work out? What if it doesn't work out? What are people going to say? And God says, but what if it does? What if it does work? What if it all works out? And all you have to do is just take that first step. And I said, you know what? Okay, I'm gonna trust it. I'm gonna trust this. I'm just gonna get past this fear. I'm just gonna show up. I'm gonna see what happens. And it just took off. It just took off the way it did. And I said, you know what, Storm, you were inspiring people's other spiritual practices. You were inspiring them to show up for themselves and how to show up in their spiritual practice by you sharing your spiritual practice. So first of all, it's more about not about me, but what I can share with others, like what I can show others. And if even if one person can take something from that, then I know that this is bigger than me. This is much bigger than me.
It's way bigger.
This is way bigger than
I
just
mean, we are
me,
so
you know?
so monumental, so
we're just a little puzzle piece of God's plan.
that's what I was gonna say. We're like the
Yeah,
seed, right?
exactly.
It's like,
So I feel like that the first initial block, to anybody that's listening to this, is tell yourself that you can do it, and know that you can do all things through Christ, that you can do all things through God, and just say, you know what, God, if this is what I'm meant to do, show me that this is what I'm meant to do.
yeah.
And just and if I'm meant to integrate this, and if this is the way I'm supposed to show up, then this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And I think I tell myself that I deserve to have a good relationship with God.
Yeah.
I have a right to have a relationship with God.
Well,
You know what I'm saying?
you have to. I mean, don't you work for God?
Yeah, come on.
No.
I deserve to share that. I have a right to share that.
Yes.
And I realized that when I started integrating these practices, how different my spiritual practice went from here all the way up here. Because the way that God was speaking to me was different. There was a shift in my business, and there was a shift within myself when I started including back my prayers and my devotionals, and me listening to my worship music. And I even thought listening to worship music was doing the most. I said, okay, God, I don't know, because people don't know that I listen to worship music still. And I'm like, am I bad? Can I not listen to this? And then God's like, turn on that worship music. And I said, okay, I'm going to turn it on right now. And I just start, and the way that I felt God's presence, it was different. And I realized that was the key. That was me getting past those initial fears and getting past those blocks, because God was removing them.
Yes.
To get closer to him.
That is so powerful. That is so powerful, because I have felt.
I hope that answers that question. I hope that made sense.
That did. That I mean, whoo, it's like you're talking out of my head or something. I'm like, why is this girl in my head? Jesus. Because that was exactly the same. So, so let's talk a little bit about how the mediumship gifts came around for you.
So I actually started doing mediumship about maybe a year and a half ago. It actually just started. Like, I just started tapping into my mediumship, because mediumship is not something to play with. No. It is something very serious. I don't take that lightly, and I don't usually do mediumships on my lives. I've done them a few times, but I try to do that for my private sessions, because it is something that is very intimate. That's something very, that you want to do off of line, because you're connecting with your past loved ones. I feel like my gifts come from my grandfather, actually. My grandfather from the Philippines, he was actually a shamanic healer himself in the Philippines.
Oh, okay.
He would heal people. He would have high intuitive gifts. Did you
get a chance to meet him?
I did not. Okay. He passed away before I even met him. I think he passed in 2007 or 2008, because he lived in the Philippines, and during that time I was very young. I was very young at that time. I never had the chance to meet him, but we do have pictures of him on our ancestor altar. I talk to him all the time. I connect with him all the time. I work with him. My mom tells me about him all the time, because that's my mom's dad. And I feel like, from my ancestry, like these are gifts that have been passed down to me. So when I started doing mediumship, and this is a really cool story, because I remember the first time I did it, it was actually from my mom.
Oh, wow.
And we were sitting in my room, and she said, Storm, can you actually channel? And can you do a mediumship reading for me? And I said, Mom, are you sure?
Wait, your mom?
My mom.
Wow.
My mom was the first person I ever did a mediumship reading for. And I wasn't even sure if I was going to be good at it. I was like, this is my first time. I've never done this before in my life. And she was just like, can you at least check to see if you can connect? So she was connecting. I was actually connecting with my grandfather. And this is the first time I actually ever channeled him and actually connected with him from the spiritual realm. And my mom even started crying, because she recorded the whole thing, and she was crying, and she was like, because all the things that were coming through, was resonating with her. And I was even speaking Tagalog, which is Filipino, and I don't speak Tagalog. So when I was speaking certain Tagalog words, she said, "How did you know that? How did you know that?" I said, "It must be grandpa, because I don't know. I speak American. I speak English." And I'm
Right.
like, "I don't speak Tagalog like my mom. She speaks Tagalog." So when I was channeling, she knew that was my grandfather coming through. She knows that that was her dad. So when I started tapping into those gifts and I started developing those things, I then started opening myself up to channeling for other people. Um, and it just kind of went from there. Like I kept practicing, I kept developing my gifts. Those were one of the things that, again, it gives people closure.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what mediumship is. It gives people closure. It gives them answers. It gives them comfort.
Yeah.
That's why I offer it, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So,
I think it's amazing because, if you think about it, the times that I've been in circle and, had people bring folks through for me, which, anybody that's been in circle with me knows that my grandparents always come through.
oh, absolutely.
They're just right there. It's almost like, they're like, anybody for, yeah, we're here.
Right. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Well, I
mm-hmm.
think it's such a special gift, and so many of us don't embrace it, and don't acknowledge it even, and because I've met some people that I knew what they were because I'm clairvoyant and shit, I got gifts. So I knew what they were, right? And I looked at them and they're steady denying, and I'm like, nah, like, you got gifts. I'm looking at you. I can see you, and I know that so much of it is because of all of the religious confusion,
Oh, yes.
because yeah, yeah,
And the thing is, I feel like with that, that becomes a blockage within itself.
yeah,
From my experience, because I thought, oh, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm not supposed to be tapping into this energy. I'm not supposed to be, connecting with these kind of spirits. And it creates and it blocks your intuitive gifts. And
yeah.
so then people become scared of it and they shy away from those gifts. But the thing is, if you're not supposed to be doing it, if you weren't supposed to do it, then you wouldn't be doing it. But if you are supposed to do it, if God gave you this gift, you might as well use your God-given gifts. So God said I gave you this gift for a reason. So I look at it that way. Like, God, if this was what I'm supposed to be doing, then yes, I will tap into this. I will start growing this. I will start nourishing my gift. But if this is something that is not in alignment with you, please let me know, and I'll completely stop.
Right.
I'll just stop.
Well, if you think about it, it's just that simple.
Yes, it's just that simple.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah, I do. I'm just I'm just so amazed at your journey and how you came around to this, and even you know coming out of the spiritual closet, even because that's always like a thing when you start doing that. I know for me, I lost a lot of people that I call friends, and but I was all right with that, like I really was okay with it. I was like, you know what, it is all right,
That's right.
because I can't, I'm not going to be, where it's not aligned.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And I feel like when you're with those relationships, because, when I started doing this as well, I lost a few people too. You always lose people along the way, no matter what you're doing in life. When you're transitioning and you're moving into a new chapter, you're going to lose some,
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
I look at that as God is making room for
Yes.
more people that are going to align with you, kindred spirits, right?
Yes.
So I just feel like, the people who just, don't resonate with you anymore, people who are not on that level with you, people who don't share those same beliefs. And the thing is, you can have different beliefs, but there has to be some type of respect for one another when
Yeah.
it comes to having different beliefs. And if we can't be in the same room and talk about different things, this is just not in alignment with,
No.
with what I
Because
got
we're
going
not all the same.
on. Exactly. We're not all the same, and that's okay. We
Yeah.
all come from, like I said, different backgrounds and different walks of life. But there has to be acceptance. There needs to be more compassionate. There more compassion, more understanding of one another,
Yeah.
and things like that. So I feel like, those old relationships, each relationship has a season.
Yeah.
Either you're here for the long haul, or
Yeah.
you're just here for a short time. And that's how that works.
It's
Just
right.
like with the seasons,
And
So
you have to just be okay with that. That's what I said. I tell people that all
mhm.
the time. They're like, oh, but my friend. I was like, well, here's the thing. Here's the thing now. If they were a friend, they'd probably still be a friend. So they probably weren't even really a friend.
Right.
And that part, you know,
And
that
the thing is about that is it's that people who you used to hold dear to your heart, you can still grieve and miss someone.
yeah,
Even when you didn't have, even if you guys weren't in the best, circumstances and you guys fell out and things like that. Because that's how I was when I'm like, I hate that I'm grieving. I hate that I'm missing this person. I hate that. It's like, no, you were friends with this person. It's
yeah,
okay. That was a relationship
yeah, you
that
had
you
nothing.
invested your time and your energy into.
Yeah,
And so it's okay to be hurt, to let go of some people, and things like that. Giving ourselves grace is, that's one of the best ways to be at peace and to move forward with
yes,
things.
yes. I'm telling you, it's one of those things that many times we don't do enough. And because I was talking to a friend of mine, and she was like, she's going through some challenges, and I said to her, I said, um, she was telling me about some things that were happening, and I said, you got to give yourself grace. That was the
Oh,
first thing that came. I was like, you got to give yourself grace.
yeah.
I said, because you've been through a lot, and your poor body has been ravaged, because she's going through those challenges, that
Yeah.
people have when they have these conditions.
Yeah.
So I said, your body has been ravaged. You got to give yourself grace. I said, maybe you don't feel like, doing whatever. I said, or maybe that day you felt like crying. You know,
That's right.
it's hit you at a certain time. It's okay. I said, just be with it. I said, just be present with it. It is all right. And it was something. And I said to her, I said, how can I support you, sis? Because she
Yeah.
doesn't live where I live. Matter of fact, we've never met in person. We've met on Facebook. And I
Right.
said, yeah. And I said, how can I support you, sis? And she said, can you do a video on giving yourself grace? And I said, I absolutely can. And I did.
Beautiful.
But I felt like it was so necessary because so many of us don't do that, especially women.
Oh, yes.
Women, and honestly, I think women of color are like double worse than that.
Oh, yeah.
We just don't
Oh,
give
yeah.
grace. We're just keep, punching, punching, punching. But I tell
Mhm.
you, what helped me to learn grace was the pandemic. The pandemic and COVID, because I got long COVID. So
Yeah.
that helped me a lot in learning grace, having
Yeah.
patience because I had to, all of that. And I'm grateful. And I think about it now. It's like I'm so grateful because I'm alive.
That's right.
Still remember something from 30 seconds ago and I couldn't back then. I mean, I'm not exhausted every single day like I was.
Right.
So many things, and then, like how we put a lot of pressure on ourselves.
We do a lot more than we need to. That's a fact. That's a fact.
We do.
You
We
ain't lying. You
push
ain't
ourselves,
lying.
and then when we burn out, then what happens? Then you have to give yourself grace because
Then you have to sit still.
you
You
got to.
have you have to. You don't got choice.
Yeah. So
And I feel like also too during the pandemic, something that I've also learned is, like you said, grace and patience. Those were some big themes for me during that time. Because remember, that's when I had my first true spiritual awakening, and that's when I started my business and things like that, and all those other things. And I know the pandemic was a lot for a lot of people.
yeah.
It was a lot. It was very, very heavy for those few years. Something that I was learning too was the art of surrendering,
Yes.
learning the art of surrendering,
Yeah.
because the way I wanted to take control of my life, but I felt powerless. I was like, because I was in a position of everything was going wrong. Like everything was going wrong. And I said, God, why is this happening?
Yeah.
Why is this happening? Like, what did I do to deserve this? Why is everything in my life just falling apart? And God said, I just need you to surrender. And I said, well, what's that gonna do?
Right? That ain't gonna look, that ain't gonna get you money.
Because now you telling me to let go of control. And so I'm like, I already feel powerless. I already feel like I don't have any control. You want me to loosen my grip some more? And he said, yeah, go ahead and do that. And I said, oh my goodness. I was in a position of I had to trust. That's another thing, that especially that I had to trust him. I had to trust the plan. I had to trust what was in store. And I had to give myself grace, because those few years I was grieving the old version of me for so many years. And I was beating myself up for so many years, because I said, oh my God, I'm not the same person that I was. I want to go back to that person. I want to go back to being this, and I want to go back to being that, but I feel like I'm lost.
Yeah.
I feel like I can't find my way back. And God said, why are you trying to go backwards?
Mm.
Why are you trying to go backwards? That's not where you're meant to go no more. We're closing that chapter. I shut that door for a reason.
You trying to go back to Egypt?
It's like, I closed that door for a reason. So I realized that the whole entire journey wasn't about me getting back to myself, going back to my old self. It was about moving forward and becoming the better version of me. That's where my journey was meant to be going. So I realize now that when I have all these different parts of me dying, and it makes space for the higher version of me.
Yeah.
And that's where I can find peace and solace in the fact that I know that this is for my highest good now.
Yeah.
That God isn't a very intentional God. He's very intentional.
Yes.
You know, so I know that all those times that I was struggling with my identity and with who I realized that I was just figuring out who I am for the first time ever.
That is so powerful.
Thank you.
It is. It's a journey to get through. But you know what? I'm just so grateful, because when I look at you, I see so much. Because I think about it, I'm like, who God would have given to be where you are at 25? I mean, 25 years ago. I'm like, oh my God, I'm just thinking about all the contributions that you're going to make to this planet. And I'm honestly honored to be in your presence.
It's an honor to be here with you. You are an inspiration to me, because I knew as soon as you came into my life, I said, who is this beautiful woman? I said, she's asking me, oh, can you come onto my podcast? You want to do a podcast interview? I said, God, are you opening a door for me right now? And and God said, yes, 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 yes. So as soon as I checked you out, and as soon as I saw what you were doing and all the beautiful things that you were doing on your podcast, and the people that you're interviewing, and all the beautiful things that you're doing, I say, you know what? I know when I see a genuine person. I know when I see a genuine soul. I know when I see a person of God. I know when I see a vessel. And so I say, you know what? I'm going to open myself up to this opportunity to connect with this beautiful woman, because I know that I have so much to learn from her as well. Because like we said, we're mirrors of each other.
Yeah.
So the light that you see in me is the light that I see in you.
Yes. And that's that right there, when I think about it, is so gracious. And so many people don't do it. And I don't know why, but God has gifted me with that, because I do it always, all the time. I'm like, no, let me encourage this sister. I'll be live sometimes, and I'll just go in sometimes, and I'll tap, and I'll speak to the person, and then they'll say something, and I'll just say something encouraging, and sometimes I keep going, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or sometimes I stay. But I
Yeah.
think that, sometimes when you start understanding, who you are, and you start remembering who
That's
you
right.
are, because we
Mhm.
are who we've always been,
Yeah.
and it was amazing. I think I did a post or something, and I said, I'm coming out of the matrix.
Mhm.
Matrix, blah blah blah, something, and somebody said, oh, you're discovering who you are or becoming something or something. And I said, no. And I looked at that and I said, no, I've always been her.
Woo!
Always been her. I said, I'm now remembering who the fuck I am.
Come on now.
And I'm like, oh
Preach.
my God, remembering because we've done it. If you know that there are those times when you remember the deja vu moments.
Yes.
You're like, I've had this conversation.
Yes.
I've said this, blah, blah, blah. And in the physical, you might not remember that, but when you begin to start coming to that place and remembering, who you are and stepping into and embodying her, then you've always been her. Always been her, and it dropped into me one day, girl. I was thinking about Beyonce and Sasha Fierce.
Yep.
And that thing dropped into my soul so heavy. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to do a video about that. And I talked about it. I was like, embody your inner Sasha Fierce. We all have her.
We all have her. We
Bring
are
her up.
her.
We are her.
We are her.
Bring her up.
Yeah.
And stop all stop all this.
Exactly.
Shut it down, let it go.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate what you said about when you started realizing when the doors were opened and when the doors were shut and what
Yes.
that looked like for you, because that's something that I talk to people all the time and I say, one of the ways that I've always prayed, and I prayed this before I made my cross country journey. I left South Carolina and went to Arizona. And so I made my cross country journey because God told me to go, and people told me that God wouldn't tell you to go someplace where you didn't know nobody and you didn't have a job and this kind of stuff. I said, okay, so that book lied because he told Abraham to do that. Okay. Anyway, so right? Like, okay.
Okay. What?
You wouldn't believe your own anyway. So yeah, so just trusting and listening is so important on this journey. And also taking the steps, just like you said. You didn't just hear and just say, oh, that's a great thing. And I'm just so happy for that. And then don't do nothing with it.
Come on now. That's a
No.
word right there. That's
Right?
a word.
Like, okay.
I almost brought up the imaginary mic on my side. I said, you hear that? You heard what she just said?
Right? I'll take a tip. My birthday's coming up. But yeah, so I mean, just hearing you just put it that way.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because that's what people need to hear. Because I find it is so much garbage. I was going to use another word, but garbage out here in these internet streets and people about things. But to me, just being that real person and that authentic person and being who you knew that you already were,
Right.
that to me is so huge for the world. Because I'm telling you, I thought about one time, I was like, well, I said, because you look at other people and you're like, oh, because I tell people, I said, my show was inspired by Super Soul Sunday and Impact Theory. Because I love the way I love Oprah, but I love the way she does with the conversations, and I love the way Tom Bilyeu did on Impact Theory.
Yeah.
I don't even think he's doing Impact Theory anymore, but he did it for years, and it was
Wow.
amazing. So this was my idea for this show when God told me to do it. But I had to do things in order to get it done. I couldn't just sit on the idea and just say, oh, maybe one day it'll happen. No, I had to take the action, even though I didn't know what the action was,
Absolutely.
what to do it. But I saw videos that told me, hey, you need to do this. And then it would come up with another one that said, hey, you should do this and you should put it here, you should do there. Or when people brought me stuff, hey, maybe we should do this. And I truly believe it's so much gatekeeping and all of this in this community that I'm at this place where I know that I am supposed to open the gates.
Come on now. Open the. Ooh,
I'm supposed to open it. I'm supposed to set the captives free.
come on.
I tell people, I said, because I said, You know, I said, I have over 1,000 videos on my YouTube channel because I tell it all. I spill all the tea. I said, I
That's
have
true.
actual workshops on that channel for free.
For free.
For free 99.
Free 99. Come on now.
What I wanted to do, and I knew that it was a service that I was required to give at the time.
Yes, absolutely.
It's okay, but um so speak to what type of community are you creating now? Because I know you
Ooh.
community.
Um, my community, it's so funny because how it started off with the Glow family or the Glow community, my background when the pandemic was happening, I was still named Glow with Storm. That was still my thing a few years ago, but it was because it was a fitness page. I was a fitness community because I used to be a woman's personal trainer.
Oh,
Yeah, so that's what community was called. It was like a health journey, health fitness page, Go with Storm. And then when I started my spiritual community, people were like, "Oh, are we the Glow family? Like we're the Glow." I started saying, "Hi, Glow family." Da, da, da. So it became a thing, and then I was like, "Okay, we're just gonna use this because it's cute. It's something that people feel inclusive. Everyone feels like we're family in here. It's a community." Um, I think with what I'm building is just connecting with God's people. I feel like connecting with people who are like me and me. I'm a reflection of my community because I say that every single day, and I say that I'm grateful for my community because I realize that with community we are stronger.
yes, stronger together.
We are stronger together,
Mhm.
and I realize that community it how do I say this? It brings the abundance tenfold because when one person wins, the next
We all
person
win.
wins.
We all
we
win.
we all win together.
So
So like when I
powerful.
see one person in there and they're talking about a win, I always say, come on, y'all, let's go ahead, let's congratulate them because God said there's enough abundance in this world for all of us to share, for all of us to have. It's
Yes,
and I was just talking about this too on my page where abundance is not limited to certain people.
right.
We all have abundance within us,
Yeah.
and abundance is our birthright. So I feel like that's the community where I'm building, where it's abundant, it's prosperous, we're encouraging each other, we're uplifting each other, we're celebrating one another, even if it's the smallest thing, because I feel like sometimes we forget to celebrate our small wins as well. It doesn't always have to be our big wins.
Right.
Celebrating our journey, taking those steps like you were talking about earlier. That's the community that I want to create, is a safe space where people feel at home and they say, you know what, I can come in here today. I can be vulnerable. I can be transparent. I don't have to be up here and do all that toxic positivity shit.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
And put on a show
Yeah.
and come in here and act like I'm something like I'm not. No, I want you to come as your authentic self.
Yeah.
I'm building an authentic community. I'm building a community of prayer. This is a movement.
Yeah.
This is not just one little thing. This is a culmination of people who have all these beautiful life experiences that we get to be a part of.
Yes.
So I feel like that's the community that I'm building right now. And I just want to say thank you, God, again. Thank you. Because I'm telling you, my community they are amazing to me. And they always say, well, Storm, because you're amazing to us. And I say, I'm just doing what I feel. I'm just doing what I am. I'm just being who I am. And I just want to say something to my past self is that Storm has come a very long way because my self-love journey within itself and my self-confidence, my self-esteem, I didn't have none of that. None. And so God was working on me all these years to where I can get to a point where I can sit up here and say, I am proud of the woman I am today. I
Yes.
am proud of my journey. I am proud of what I built with God, because I was in a position where I didn't have this. I didn't have this before. I didn't support myself. I didn't build myself up. And I look at my old self and I can give her grace and say, you did the best that you could.
Yeah.
You did the best that you could
I mean,
at
you
that time.
you were where you were at that time. And
Exactly. And
that's
that's what I want to teach
powerful.
people. That's what I want to teach my community.
That is so powerful. And where are you building your community?
So currently I'm in Arizona, but I'm moving back to Texas next month. Yeah, I'm moving back to Texas next month. Um, what was that?
I said, I'm so sorry. Did I say that?
I'm so I'm moving back there for multiple personal reasons, but I feel like it's gonna be good. I feel like it's gonna be good. I do have good people out there. There are connections that I do have out there, and it's gonna be a brand new start. It's gonna be a brand new start. I trust that God's gonna open doors there, and I just got to keep my faith and do
Always.
all that. But you know,
Always. My daughter's in Austin,
always.
actually.
I'm gonna be living an hour away from Austin.
Okay. All
Oh,
right.
I don't know.
I'm telling you, never.
How old is your daughter?
She'll be 35 next month.
Oh, yeah, let her know that I'll be down. You know,
I will
everybody
let her
down
know.
here or something.
If she likes it. I don't know. I don't know why, but she likes it down there. My son actually moved from Austin to Portland.
Wow. Okay, so y'all moved from like, like state to state and things like that too.
Yeah,
Wow.
Washington.
Oh, you're in Washington.
Yeah, we were living in Tucson, right at the start of the pandemic, and we moved here.
And I'm currently in Tucson.
Are you really?
I really
It's a small world. Yeah, I used to do circles with Quinn at Quinn Red Mountains thing.
oh my God.
Do circles. I think that I'm sure the pandemic took that building away.
Wow.
Yeah, I used to do circles right there in her little place. She would rent out the rooms and you paid, I think a percentage or whatever, 20% or whatever, and it was
Yeah.
good.
So how do you like Washington? Like I've always wanted to visit there.
I like it. There are a lot of things I like about it, and I'll tell you as soon as we're done.
Okay.
Um, so the last question that I have for you before we land this plane,
Yeah.
and God, girl, I could stay in your energy for hours. Um,
Oh, thank you.
when you, if you think about the world,
Mhm.
is there anything that you would like to change and why?
Woo, that is such a beautiful question. You know what? I don't think anybody's truly asked me that. Um, if there's anything in the world that I would change, then what would it be? I think something that I would change is the way that we see one another. I think by looking at somebody and saying, you know what, I see you, I understand you, I feel you, I feel like bringing people closer together and bringing unity. I feel like that's what we were talking about earlier is changing the division that we have in this world, whether that is, color, like I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, racism, politics, I mean,
Oh,
there's so many things, religion, spirituality, there's so many things that keep
yeah,
us
yeah,
apart.
and trans and not,
Yes,
yeah,
that yes, and all that stuff, like those things keep us in categories. They
yes,
keep us in different boxes. They keep us very limited because we look at that next person and say, well, I don't, they don't have enough compassion. They don't have enough understanding. And it's easier to judge someone and say, well, I don't like that you're doing this, or I don't like, what you believe in and things like that. And it's like, God created and intended us for us to connect with one another, to
yes,
be in unity, and to be, because unity creates what? Peace. It creates harmony.
yes,
And so I feel like that's what people need in this world,
yes,
because this world, we live in a very chaotic and broken world.
yes,
We do. And I feel like that's not, if I can even contribute just a little bit of bringing people together and creating that unity, then I've done my job.
yes,
I've done my purpose. I've done my assignment.
absolutely.
That's
So
what I would change.
let me ask you also this. So do you think, because I'm going to tell you why I'm asking. Um, I noticed that when I started doing lives on TikTok, especially when I started praying, you know,
Yes.
doing that kind of work, um, can you feel the darkness?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Are you talking about just like in general, like on live, like
Yeah.
when people enter the room? Oh, absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
I feel like that's the reason why, I know that's the reason why God called me to that particular app. Because I was doing, because I'm doing, I do the other things in the other places.
Yeah,
But, I felt genuinely called to that. And I noticed that so many people come and they are so broken and it's so much
it
wrong
is.
with people. I mean, who girl, I remember one person came in my room and I felt her energy as soon as she popped in. And my heart just started and I said, what the what?
What is this? Like, what
Oh
is
my
this?
God, and I was like, oh, and she's like, I lost my child or something. And I'm like, oh, whoa. And I mean, really. And so I wanted to just get your take on, um, you feel like you were called to be doing the things that you're doing on that app.
Yes, absolutely. When I started posting on TikTok, it was really because I was doing my Reiki. I was doing my Reiki healing, and people were so drawn to it. And I mean, my most viewed video is actually Reiki for grief. Still to this day, years later, that's still my top video because grief is a heavy emotion. And the
Yeah.
fact that you were just talking about that woman losing her child, I mean, come on. So I feel like I was meant when God said, just post one video on there, just start your Reiki, just start. And I was doing one Reiki video a day. And next thing you know, it was the community. That's where things started building. That's where the community started building, was when I was posting my Reiki videos once a day because I felt people's pain.
Yeah.
Like when they would comment and say, oh my God, I needed this because I literally was going through this. Or, oh my gosh, I needed to see this and I need to receive this healing because of this.
Yes.
And I've been going through the darkness and I've been depressed and I've been having an anxiety and I just lost my best friend and I just went through this horrible divorce and I just went through this. And I said, God, there's a lot of people out there who are struggling right now.
Yes.
There's a lot of people who need help. And
Yeah.
if even if just viewing me on a screen for 60 seconds just of healing, and that helps you,
Yeah.
and that helps you in your healing journey to keep going, then oh my God, I'm gonna keep doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna keep doing that. So I definitely was called. Most definitely.
Yeah. That's so powerful. And I knew that because, like I said, when I saw you, I was like, who is this girl?
Who is she?
Look,
Where did she go?
what did Jesus say? Who touched me?
This is God.
But it's just amazing because I don't know about you, but well, I do know about you because I'm looking at you. I can feel you. It's like this work is so amazing and it's just so fulfilling,
Thank
just to be able to do it and just, I mean, it fills you up.
It does
Yeah.
every day, every day. I'm grateful for it. I always thank God. I put God at the center and everything. And I just say, thank you for allowing me to use my gifts. Thank you for allowing me to be a healing vessel for people. Thank you for allowing me to be a channel to channel your word and to give your messages and things like that. And it's just a blessing. I never thought I was going to be in this position. I never thought. But if you would have told me a few years ago, Storm, this is what you're gonna be doing, I would have looked at you and been like, "Nah, you lying. You lying." But now I'm in this position, and I believe this is truly what I was meant here to do, and I'm so blessed.
You
So
are. You are, and it really is. I mean, it shows. And even through like your lives, I don't know, you just have this whole glow about you. Like every time I go through and I'm like, oh my God, and you just kind of stop me. I was like,
oh,
because sometimes you're late and I get on and I start looking and I'm like, okay, yeah. And then I think one day I got on right as you were doing your Reiki. And I said, this is so phenomenal.
thank
I
you.
felt that thing so strongly. I was like, oh my God. I think, what were you doing the throat? You might have been doing the throat chakra.
I think it was. Mm-hmm.
Felt that thing so strongly. I was like, oh man. I needed to be here. All right, so we're gonna land this plane. Let the people know the best place to connect with you if you have even a website to share. And those things will also be in the show notes. So, just share them here now.
Yay! So thank you so much, Tammy, for having me on the show. This was a wonderful time. You guys can find me on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube at Glow with Storm. I also have a website called heal.me/glow with storm. That's where you can book all of my private sessions, Reiki, EFT tapping, sound healing, and also readings as well. And again, just thank you, Tammy. You are wonderful. You're such an inspiring light, and this was just amazing. So thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Yes, I'm so grateful that you came and it's just fire, girl. It was just so much fire. And
It was.
I don't know if look, I ain't gonna be able to go to bed. But thank
I'm
you
so
so much for
excited.
joining us on Straight Out of Savannah. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe wherever you are watching or listening to this. We appreciate you. We thank you for your time because I know you could be listening to anything else, but you chose to listen to us tonight. And I hope that, we said something that changes your life or that allows you to connect to your own magic. Thank you so much. Bye now. You just finished watching Stormy Mosley on Straight Out of Savannah. She is an amazing, beautiful Reiki healer. I have loved this girl. I got to meet her in a TikTok room, and she was doing Reiki and doing some healing. And oh my God, it was so amazing. So, we talked about so many things, and I would love to know what you think about what we shared. So, again, my name is Tammy Morrison. I am an intuitive healer, a spiritual teacher, and a mentor, loving to work with people to open up their spiritual gifts so that they could connect to their God self and or their intuition. And so if that is you, I do phone readings, which are available in my stand store, and I would love for you to check that out using the details in the details. So, again, thank you so much. I hope that your day is magical and that this has helped you to shift your perception in magical ways. Have a great one. Bye now.